Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Turk's Tips and Tricks. Today, we're going to take a look at NX drafting. Now, we're not actually going to place any dimensions. Now, that's too easy. We're going to look at some of the intricacies, the tough stuff that comes with drafting. For an agenda, we're going to briefly talk about who is Geometric Solutions and how can we help you. Then we're going to dive into our subject, looking at the insider's tips and tricks with NX drafting. So we're going to look at some things like secondary geometry, render sets, view-dependent edits, and so on. Please note, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in during this webinar. We'll do our best to get them answered. If we can't answer them today, well, we'll answer them at another time. My name is Dan Turk, and I'm an application engineer with Geometric Solutions. Now, Geometric Solutions, we sell the best-in-class Siemens software solutions. Our parent company, Waltonen Engineering, they have literally hundreds of engineers and designers. And guess what tools they're using? Yeah, the very ones that we're selling. Then we have Independence Tooling Solutions, and they're actually able to create the things that are being designed. So you could say front to back and every which way around, we have you covered. The owner of our company, he put it pretty nicely. Our ability to successfully partner with our customers comes from our experience in using the tools we sell every day. So we don't just sell these tools. No, we're using them and using them pretty effectively. So with that, let's jump into our subject, Turk's Tips and Tricks, NX drafting. We're going to take a look at something called secondary geometry. You can see I've got this fixture and it's holding this part. In the drawing, we want to show the fixture. We also want to show the part, but we don't want the emphasis to be on the part. How do we do this? Well, let's go into drafting. Once we're in drafting, we're actually going to set this part as what's referred to as secondary geometry. So I'm just going to expand, find the part, right-click, Properties. Go all the way to the right, Drawings, and all we have to do is turn on secondary geometry. Now that's the trick. Sometimes people struggle when they're using secondary geometry, and the reason is they didn't set the part first. So do that first. Then we go to the view. Go into its settings. You can go down a little ways, right there, secondary geometry. And we can turn that on. I'm just going to hit apply. And you can see how this secondary geometry works. We have the part and it's in phantom lines. But you can do some other options. We could say that we want it hidden by the primary geometry. Let me hit apply. Or that looks a little bit better. Or we could have the primary geometry also hidden by secondary. And there we can see what that looks like. So that was secondary geometry. And just remember, set it in the part first, then set it in the view. We're going to take a look at something called render sets next. Render sets are pretty cool because you can take any one of these components and you can change how it looks in the drawing. Either how it looks hidden or how it looks as you can see it visible. All right, let's jump in, take a look. I'm going to go into drafting. I'm just going to add a couple of ISO views. So I'll just drop down one. And then I'm just going to do a quick copy and paste for the next. To create your render sets, the easiest way to find the tool is to use the command finder, because you'll have to dig through the menu. So I'll just type in render set, and I can see that button and see where it is. Let me just launch it. The first thing that we'll do is we're going to give it a name. So I'm just going to call this render set 1. Create. And from here, we can actually go in and start to select what's the geometry that we want to change how it looks. So I'm going to take the main piston in this brake caliper. And then we can decide, what do we want it to look like? If it were hidden, what do we want those hidden lines to look like? You can see it's set to invisible because that's what my drawing is set to. But I'm going to say that I want all of the visible lines. We can change to, let's say, dotted, and I want them to be red. So all of these lines, that's all highlighted in orange, it should turn red, and it should be dotted. I'm going to create a second render set. I'm just going to deselect that first body, and this time I'm going to choose the mount of the caliper. I'm going to keep it dotted as well, but this time I'm going to change the size, and I'll change the color to green and apply. Okay, so we've got 2 render sets right now. The way that we activate these is we go into the settings of our view, and then underneath General, Render Sets, Define in View. And it's basically giving you the option to choose a render set. So I'll choose one, Add, OK, and OK. Pretty cool. There you can see all those red dotted lines. Let me go to the second view. General, Define in View, Render Set 2, and we can see how that looks. What's cool about this, and it's highlighted better on the green one, is that we can see this part all the way through. But you may have noticed something when I went into that render set. It's that you can add multiple render sets to the same view. And so then I can have a view with multiple. So that is render sets. Pretty cool. Let's take a look at how we can hide components on a drawing view. First, I'm going to show you the old way that we used to do this. So we used to take a part and we would move it to another layer. So it's on layer 1, we would put it on layer 2, have layer 2 visible. Then when I go into my drafting, I'm going to add another ISO view. And from here, what we would do is we would use a tool called Visible in View. So View, More, Layer Visible in View. And I would say I want to turn off layer 2. Hit OK. Update my views. And there you can see that that piston, or the caliper, it has disappeared. There's an easier way to do the exact same thing. I'm going to click Base View. Once again, we're going to use the ISO. But this time, I'm going to come down to the settings. And I'm going to choose some objects to hide. So I'll choose that main one. There's an easier way to do this though. I'm simply going to add another base view. Again, isometric. But then I'm going to roll down to hidden components. So I basically want to choose a part that I want to have hidden. So that's what I'd like. Drop that down and done. It's pretty cool that you don't have to put everything on multiple layers if you don't want to. The question naturally would be though, all right, I use that, but I changed my mind. I do want to show that part. On this one, it's easy. I just use the layer visible in view command. For here, all we have to do is click and then edit the view. We can come back and I could add other components, or I can remove that one, update my views, and we're back to good. We're going to take a look at a really nice tool called View Dependent Edits. So what a View Dependent Edit is, it allows you to go into the view and edit it. Simple enough, right? If I right click on my view, View Dependent Edit, I get this little box. And so it gives me some options. I can erase an object, I can edit objects, I can edit shaded objects, or I can edit object segments. And then conversely, you can delete your edits. And then here's a really cool one we're going to look at in just a minute. But we can actually draw on the drawing and then have that go right into the model. It's pretty cool. We'll show you that in just a sec. So the first thing is the ability to erase objects. Where this comes into play is oftentimes you'll have a drawing, an ISO view like this, and someone will say, you know what? When it comes to those smooth edges, we don't want to see them. We don't want any smooth edges. So you say no problem, and I turn them off. All right, that looks okay. But we've got these little extra little bits in there, and it can be a little confusing. So this is where a view dependent edit would come into play. I'm going to choose Erase Objects. And I can simply go in here and click on the items that I want to get rid of. And then they're gone. You can go through and get rid of any object that you want. So maybe it wasn't enough for you turning off those smooth edges. Maybe you also want to get rid of these somewhat sharper ones. Well, no problem. If you change your mind, this is where the delete edits comes into play. So when I choose that, you can see it gives me these nice options that I could make some changes there. Now on some of this though, you might say, well, I need to have a little bit more information. I don't want all those smooth edges, but it's kind of hard to tell that this used to be a cylinder. Or maybe I want that little brake line to go in there. Well, how do we do that? We're going to go back to the view, and turn on smooth edges again. So the smooth edges, they're back on, and then I'm going to go and edit them. So View Dependent Edit. Here's where we're going to edit the entire object. So I'm going to say that I want these little cylinders, I want to keep those there. So the first thing you have to do is set your objects. Do you want that to be a different color? That way you can know that it's different. For our purposes, we're going to say yes. We want it to be green. And then on the line style, well, let's go ahead and we're going to put it to solid. And we'll leave the width alone. So from here, we're just going to middle click to OK, and then we're going to go in and start to choose some of the objects. So you can just take a look, what are the other pieces that you might want to keep? We're just going to go with those 3. Click OK. You can see that they're in there in green. And then when I go back to my settings, I turn off smooth edges. The smooth edges are off, but those pieces in green, they have remained. It's looking good, isn't it? Except for that. Why did that green line, why did it come all the way through? It's because we selected that line segment, part of which was hidden. This is where we're going to have to go back into our View Dependent Edit. View Dependent Edit. This time we want to edit edit object segments. It's kind of tough to say. I want to change the line style from original to invisible. Then I'll middle click to say OK. And I'm going to choose on this side the green line. And the next thing is it's asking for a boundary. So I'll choose that as my boundary. You can see with the 2 stars that that's what's going to change. And I'll hit OK. And just like that, we were able to edit that segment. Let's right click again, View Dependent Edit. And just keep in mind that you can delete selected. You can delete the edits. Remember, that's what we did here. Or you can delete everything. So it gives you those nice 3 options. You don't have to be afraid that you're going to make some change in here that you won't be able to undo. Let's go into our shaded view. So View Dependent Edit. This time we want to edit a shaded object. And maybe in this case I just want to edit these 2 cylinders. I'll change the color, sticking with that green. And just that quickly you're able to add that shading. So if you wanted to have a call out or you just wanted something to stand out more, the View Dependent Edit can help you to do that. The next thing though we want to do is we want to actually draw on a view and then have what we draw on the view go to the model. To do this, I'm going to add another base view. And I want the right view. I'll take these other 2 views that we had made, we'll just move them over. And then we're going to draw in this view and move it to the model. To do this, we're going to actually go inside of the view. So we right click and we want to expand. So again, it's right click, expand. Now here's the key. Once you click expand, don't rotate. Now I'm going to show you why. As soon as I rotate, you can see the view is kind of skewed because this is just a shot of the view. So if you accidentally rotate, the easiest thing to do is to turn off expand, and do it again. So I'm going to expand, and again, I'm not going to rotate. I'm then going to add some text. So curve and points, text. I'm going to place it, my origin point, on the edge of my part. And I'll just move that up a little bit. You can type in anything. For my purposes, I just typed in left hand. OK. And now I've got that text in there. I'm going to right click, turn off the expand mode. Then right click again, view dependent edit, and we're going to click on view to model. This is pretty cool. I'll just choose these two, hit OK, and they're gone. To get the text back, you'll notice that it's actually saying our drawing is out of date. Update views. There's our text. But if we go to modeling, there again, there's our text. What's cool about this is these are splines, so it's just a group. So you could go in here and extrude this if you wanted, subtract, make any etches or what have you. Let's go back into drafting. And then we're going to say that we changed our mind on this. We don't want it on the model any longer. No problem. Right click, view dependent edit, and this time we're going to say model to view. Choose those both. OK. You'll notice out of date, so let's update and go to our model. And there we have it, it's gone. This is a really nice tool. I know that when I worked on a lot of medical devices, there were some notes that we had to put on to each of the drawing views, but nobody knew about that tool, so we didn't also put them on the model. Now you can. Let's take a look at how to use a breakout section. I'm first going to add my base view. So I'll go with the right view and then one projection. So here's our breakout section view. Basically what it is, we might want to have one segment of our part that we want to have where it cuts through. Well, this is a lot easier than it used to be. We used to tell everyone you right click, you go into expand, and then you start to use curves to draw in your lines. Well, now you don't have to do that. Instead, we can just click on our view and then go into active sketch view. I'm then going to choose a spline, and I'm just going to go ahead and put my spline in, make sure it looks good, set to closed, and OK. Then I'll just finish the sketch. So what's cool is you're actually able to sketch right inside of the view. This makes our breakout section a lot easier to use. I'm going to choose breakout section. And of course, the first thing is it's asking, what's the view? So I want this as my view. The next thing that it's asking, and you'll notice here, it's saying, what's the base point? So you could think about it. We're going to take this spline and we're going to slice it through the part. Well, we don't want to slice it all the way through, but we just need to choose how far into the part. So I'm going to just choose this midpoint. You'll also notice that there's an arrow there, so I could reverse that vector. But essentially, I'm going to slice from that point through the part. I'm going to middle click, and then I choose the spline. Middle click again, and there's that cut. So it's really easy to do, especially since you can just sketch whatever you would want inside of here. Just for emphasis, I'm going to do this again. This time I'm going to use just a rectangle. We'll go to Breakout Section View, choose the view, then how far in do we want to go? So I'll choose that point, middle click to advance, then I'm just choosing that rectangle and finish. So using the breakout section is really easy when you're using the sketch inside of the view. And here's the added bonus. Did you notice 2 breakout sections in one view? Pretty nice tool. We're going to take a look at how we can use the dimensions that are in our sketch as well as other features and actually take that information, bring it right into the drawing. So if you notice my little I-beam that I have here, there was a sketch that created this, and I've got a couple of tapped holes. So let's go into drafting. The tool that I want to use is called Feature Parameters. In the command finder, I'm just going to type in feature. And you'll notice that it's actually currently hidden. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say I want to show this on the current tab. So choose Feature Parameters. And what it basically wants me to do is to choose the sketches or any other information that we have on here. You'll notice that the extrude that created the I-beam, it's not there. So it doesn't work for everyone. But let's try the sketch. And then next I choose the view. Okay. And there's my sketch. Now granted, we might want to change one of these to a thickness, but you get the idea. And you're able to get those dimensions pretty quickly. We can take this to another level though when it comes to our holes. Now in previous versions of NX we would say use the radial command and then there was a drop down that you would go to. But on this version of NX there's actually a hole and thread callout. Make my pick and place that hole. What's nice about this is you can customize this note any way that you want. If I were to go into the settings of this dimension, I'm going to get rid of the start chamfer and the end chamfer information. And then I've got something that is more what I want. So using these feature parameters, you can get all the information, just a couple button clicks. One last thing that I wanted to show was, let's just say that we want to have one of these dimensions more like a tabulation. I'll just click on the dimension, go into the settings, and then you're going to go down to Text, Format, Override Dimension Text. Now you want to be careful. You would never want to put in a fake dimension, but maybe we want this to be dimension A. And there you go. Another nice thing that you can do. And even bringing in those feature parameters, you're still able to treat it like a normal dimension. I want to remind everyone to mark your calendars for the 4th Tuesday of each month. That's Turk's Tips and Tricks. We appreciate all of your time and your attention. You'll notice we've got this little QR code, so you can scan that to learn more. Or if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email. Thanks everybody. Have a great day and stay safe.